Welcome back to Season 5 of Porcelain Peak, your favorite strange and scary podcast featuring chop talk, trivia, and deep dive main discussions into the odd and unusual.
So deep, so unusual.
I'm one of your hosts, Tone, and I'm joined by...
John.
And...
It's the sound an ape makes. You like that? It sounded pretty real, huh?
Yeah, whoa.
They should cast me in I think they already have the cast. I think they're already done filming that movie, but
But with a voice ape like that?
They should cast me in my own project called Internet Darling of the Planet of the Apes. It'll be about when the apes reinvent the internet.
And your name is...
Anthony.
Perfect. And this week for Chop Talk, we're going to share some news about gremlins and a little bit more. Then we're going to play trivia. And for our main discussion, if you haven't picked it up already, we're continuing with Planet of the April and talking about War for the Planet of the Apes. So stay tuned and we'll get started with Chop Talk.
Why don't you take an axe and chop it open?
Before we dive into that news, I'd like to point out that we're all wearing Porcelain Peak shirts.
Are you?
A little bit, well.
Not for much longer.
Yeah.
Looks like it says Orkland E. Orkland E.
Orkland E.
And this is how we are announcing that we are relaunching the podcast as Orkland E. Your one-stop shop for...
range and carry.
Yeah.
Why don't you do me a quick squalid? Why don't you stand up and show them the back since you don't have a computer in front of you?
Yes, if you're interested in this, you can get it right now on Spring.
Where? Tell me when I'm
A little lower. Ooh, the visionary director.
Yeah, that's also what John's wearing, but his is in white hooded. Cream hooded.
It's sand, I believe. It gets coarse. It gets everywhere.
Yeah, I told Teespring, I said, give me your creamiest color. Give me that cream. So visionary director, if you want these, good fucking luck. Now, if you go to porcelainpeakshop.com, they should be up on our page. And if you like what you see here, and you like the way they look on us, then try one out for yourself. Yeah, in all different shapes and sizes. We may or may not have some new merch coming out soon. It's a constant question. But...
All right, well, how are you guys?
Doing pretty good. My hoodie finally came in after a small amount of time ordering. I ordered the other colorway, the black one as well, so I'm waiting for that to come in. They came separately.
At the same time, you ordered them?
I ordered them at the same time, and then for a reason that one's taking longer.
And John, I'm really curious, which do you think is better, black or white? In terms of the shirts and the hoodies.
I don't see color.
Whoa, man, that's not cool.
No, I think they both look great. I think
it was actually a genius idea to
do the
both
reverse.
versions. Yeah. But this guy knows about the fashion. You see him every week. He's always repping
You
some
do look
cool
pretty
hat.
fucking fresh today.
Thank you. Got the shoes to
know.
go with it.
You got the chain on under all that too.
I do have
Creamed
the
up
chain
from
on.
the feet up, baby.
Nice.
That's the John Brasher motto. How are you?
I'm doing great. I had a really good day, which was strange, and have just been feeling great. I'll take a moment here while I have a little window to do a quick little recommendation. If you are not currently watching Beef on Netflix, go check that out. It's pretty cool. It's 10 episodes, like a half hour long. I'm really enjoying that so far. And
Ali Wong, Steven
Yun,
A24 production.
yeah,
It's on Netflix right now. It's about people that
have a road rage incident that devolves into them having simultaneous ego death. But so if that interests you. And then on top of that, the other thing that has been literally the focus of every night of my life for the past couple weeks has been Succession. I finally got on the train. If you were on that train, please reach out to me and let me know, because I surprisingly, even though the entire world watches it, don't know anyone personally besides myself that watches it. So I have no one to talk to about it.
Do you really know yourself?
You know what? That's a great question for another time. I am currently on season 3, so I'm almost caught up, and I had a fucking scare the other day because something big happened in the newest episode that like broke people's brains, and everybody on the internet was like, holy shit, I can't believe they did that. And I was just like, scroll. Don't want to see. I'm so close to being caught up. But I think now's a good time.
Unsuccessful.
Now's a good time to binge it because the last season is airing, so I'm intending to catch up in time to watch the finale with everybody else in the world.
You have a watch party?
With just me?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be great.
We call that a one-man watch party over here.
But I've been telling people it's basically Arrested Development meets Game of Thrones. If that combo interests you, then go watch it. And other than that, I'm doing great.
I've been playing some Zelda because got the new one coming out.
The Kingdom of the
Crystal Tears
or something.
So the Tears of the Kingdom comes out next month. I'm very excited. So I'm in order to prepare for that, I'm attempting to play through every single Zelda game.
Well, not every single one.
We skipped Zelda 2, but
Link's. Oh, is it Link's Awakening?
No, that Adventure?
That was Adventure. There
yeah.
There you go.
That one's hot garbage. There's
Link's A.
There are only 3 games that are worse, and those are the 3 that were made by Philips.
But those don't count in like
the canon. No.
Yeah.
Is that where it? Well, excuse me, princess.
I think that's from the Super Show or from the Zelda cartoon.
Yeah.
I need to check that out.
Well, you guys also saw the new Mario, right?
We did.
Yeah. Was that? We haven't recorded since.
I don't know if you guys had seen it before we last recorded, but you didn't say anything about whether you thought it was good or not. I haven't seen it yet.
I swear we did.
If we didn't, who cares? I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Give it a big toadstool up or a big toadstool down, or like a in between toadstool.
I had a blast. If you're fans of Mario, or you grew up with Mario, like I think most people did, then you'll probably enjoy it.
Well, if you grew up with Mario, then your name is probably Luigi.
I said this during alphabet roulette today, but it was a lot of just like.
I know that.
Yeah.
I get that reference. I played that game. Well, cool. You guys, how you got anything interesting to share with the live studio audience?
Not a damn thing. Fuck 'em.
That was the whole live studio audience in disbelief. Well, I got some interesting stuff to share if you guys want to get into some news.
Yeah, Mogwai.
So before we get into that, because that's all part of a big old batch of
fucking weird shit
related news.
I also see what you did there.
Yeah, see?
It was a new batch of things.
We're very excited about Gremlins news because we watched Gremlins 2 for our bonus episode over on patreon.com.
Yeah, check it out. So I'm gonna get a couple of little small bits of news, little pieces of news. We're talking about War for the Planet of the Apes in our main discussion, which stars a little dude named Andy Serkis.
His height.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really know how small he is. I just know he usually plays small characters or very ginormous characters. It has been confirmed by Lucasfilm and Disney that Andy Serkis will be returning for Andor season 2
as the same character.
I assume that all it says is that Serkis is part of the cast for Andor season 2. So I don't know if that means it's the same character or if he's going to be motion capturing something again, or if we're just going to all have to pretend that we don't recognize him when he comes back playing a different character.
I think that he'll probably be the same character. I mean, they don't definitively kill him. I wonder if they're going to...
A ship's just going to fly in and pick him up. And we'll find out he had friends in low places or something.
Yeah.
Came and helped him out.
Was he King Kong in Peter Jackson's King Kong?
Mm-hmm.
So now this is the second time that he's played.
He's a real apespert.
Yeah.
And a little interesting bit of trivia, Terry Notary, who we've talked a lot about with these past couple ones, played King Kong in Skull Island. Skull Island. So they have both played Kong and played apes in these movies.
Wow.
So they're just good at the ape shit.
Yeah.
They're your go-to ape men. And then it's funny, we just need to start consistently willing things we want to see into existence, because after we got out of the new John Wick, we were like, whatever happened to that Continental show they were going to do?
Yeah.
And just so much shit has come out about it since then. Multiple really dope-looking posters. The full title of the show, because we've discussed this with Harry Potter, you can't not put the name John Wick in there, is The Continental, from the world of John Wick. And
from the Book of Saw.
Yeah, and a teaser trailer has been released. I haven't watched it yet.
Wow.
I'm really excited to check it out when I get home, and it is going to be airing on Peacock, and it is set in the 1970s. So check that out if you're a John Wick fan and you want more Continental.
I wonder if there'll be some bushes outside the Continental.
Yeah.
Because it's the 70s.
Oh, and there's a lot of bush.
Yeah, he gets it.
And then this news dropped like right before I clocked out of work, so I added it here. The Blade movie, which has been in and out of production, switched directors, switched writers.
Oh, really?
Seems to be moving forward in some fashion because Mia Goth has now joined the cast. So Mia Goth is...
They're already having trouble with it?
it's just been, they switched directors at one point, and then COVID happened, and just like a bunch of stuff where but it seems to be moving forward, still with Mahershala Ali, but now with Mia Goth on board. I hope she's playing a vampire. Maybe that would be cool.
I wanted to mention a thing before you get into the big stuff.
Oh, too bad. This is my segment, John.
If you haven't seen on Twitter, if you don't follow Chris Stuckman, which you're not on Twitter, but if you were, you would follow Chris Stuckman. He had his Twitter hacked towards the middle of March and has not had access to his account up until today. And there was somebody running a MacBook scam from his account. They would post that they were selling like a handful of MacBooks and then lock the comment. So the only way to interact with it would be to comment through like a direct message, so it's not being viewed by the public. And due to the fact that Twitter was really slow to help support him with that, now that he has access to the account, he's going to likely deactivate the account and never use the website again.
He already has it privated. I checked after you mentioned that. And,
crazy.
So I mean, but I don't blame him. NPR announced today they're leaving Twitter because of all the shit with Elon Musk and just ruining it. And
so I think YouTube and Instagram are going to be the ways if you want to get information about Shelby Oaks and its release and all of those things. You'll likely need to find other social media to get that information from rather than Twitter.
Yeah, that's what the dogs are saying, but in dog language.
I want to see the stoner version called Shelby Tokes.
Hell yeah, brother.
What if she dies? Shelby Croaks.
Let's stop.
Yeah.
You want to get one? You want to get one?
No.
Come on, you want to get one? What if she was on Dexter and it's Shelby Dokes?
Surprise, motherfucker. The sad part is that it popped into my head seconds after you said it.
Some fries, motherfucker.
Wrong size, motherfucker.
Okay, so joke dead. Next in news. So this is the big news. This is the big bundle. HBO Max. Drop the HBO. Just Max. So as of May 23rd, HBO Max will now become Max.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is the new logo.
Are they dropping HBO stuff?
No.
Because it's HBO and Cinemax, right?
Yes. And Warner Brothers now, and Discovery,
and
everything. So basically their thought was, for whatever reason, they feel that the HBO name is turning people away because in their stupid melty brains, they think that the HBO brand name intimidates people. Like they think like, oh, it's only prestige programming that isn't accessible to my garbage food brain. So
really, I feel like HBO would be the reason I would watch it because they have quality content.
And also HBO is having a fucking great run right now. They had
House of the Dragon.
They had House of the Dragon. They had The White Lotus. They had they have Succession still currently going.
I think Barry's on it.
Barry is coming back and already is getting like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and it's supposed to be fucking fantastic.
There was something else in there too.
Where are they getting this like thought from?
Their phone fucking dumb idiot brains. Like I'm
PowerPoint presentations, and
I'm so upset by this. And I like you were saying before, HBO is a prestige brand for a reason. It's earned its status as a place you go for quality.
That's exactly what I think. I think it's quality. Like I don't think it's like hoity-toity. Is that what their thought is?
Yeah. That
people think about HBO?
I mean, there's nothing hoity-toity about Game of Thrones, right?
No, I don't know. I never thought prestige. I think that's strange to me.
Yeah, that's why I just don't. I mean, I'm
agreeing with you.
Like, I'm not angry about it just because this is what these streaming services do. You know, one day it's Paramount Plus, then the next day it's Paramount Plus Showtime, and then it'll be show. You know, they'll have to come up with some
show.
Yeah, and that's all this is just all of these streaming services are looking for any way they can convince people to subscribe and watch more than they're already watching.
So nothing's changing but the name?
Well, so there's the name, and then with that came a bunch of announcements about new shows and stuff. But it's all stuff that we were going to get regardless of the name change. This is
right. So I'm just saying, like, they're not losing stuff.
Yes, we're not going to be losing content outside of what they've already been nixing because of the whole Warner Brothers management kerfuffle.
It has 3 tiers for pricing.
Yeah,
fucking
3 tiers.
Stupid.
You know, for Sweet Revenge, but so you have your $9.99 per month, which is with ads. You have your $15.99 per month, which is ad free, and then you have $19.99 a month, which is ultimate ad free. So I was going to ask, you guys want to share a Max account?
What is ultimate ad free?
So, welcome to the internet, sir. Congratulations, you're saying the same thing that everybody on Twitter is saying.
You're now an ultimate ad free
do we get to make ads
user.
for the people that are paying for ads?
Yeah. Yeah. This will be my ad. I was just being like, you've heard the phrase "shit or get off the pot." What if there was a third option? Welcome to my very weird TED Talk. So no, what Ultimate Ad Free is going to be is with the ad free, you will have ad free. You will have up to, I think, 10 offline downloads per month, but you can only watch HD. If you want 4K, then you have to go up to the $20 a month plan, which is then 30 downloads per month, I believe, offline, 4K streaming, and no ads.
Why are they limiting the amount of downloads? It's stupid.
No clue. Their slogan is the one to watch. Max, it's the one to watch.
Mad, maybe.
Their little thing is introducing Max, the one to watch for HBO. And one of the jokes I saw on Twitter was like, that's their way of saying, Max, don't worry, we also have garbage. Because that's pretty much what they're doing. Is it's what we've talked about in the past with other streaming services, where they're all just turning toward reality garbage programming, and
it's cheap.
Because it's cheap, and people
it's HBO too,
and people watch it voraciously, and so they don't want people to be going to Netflix to get their shitty TLC stuff.
Love is Blind or whatever.
Coworkers have been talking about that all week, to the point where two of them convinced others to binge it so that they can all have a watch party Friday before this airs, and like sit down and all watch it together.
What show is this?
Like,
MILF Manor?
No, Love is Blind.
Oh,
that's a real thing though.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, I have no part in this. I got no horse in this race. I'm not gonna.
I'm like, wasn't MILF Manor a thing from fucking 30 Rock?
Yeah, it was. That was the joke that everybody was making. Was that
or is MILF Island? But
yeah,
same,
but it's the
same
bit.
fucking thing.
That's probably why they didn't call it MILF Island, is because I'm pretty sure it does take place on an island in the show. But anyway, the announcements, some of these pretty exciting though. So first up, the Penguin dropped a teaser trailer. An in-production teaser trailer.
Hopefully it's not a pen loser.
Yeah, apparently it's supposed to be about Colin Farrell's
life.
Colin Farrell's, working his path up to the top of being the kingpin of Gotham. The full title of the show is The March of the Penguin.
Penguin from Batman. The Book of Batman.
Yeah.
The Book of Bruce.
The Book of Bruce.
That last part I said, March of the Penguin, was not real. That was a joke. It is just called The Penguin. But, yeah, you were like, I buy that. That sounds legit.
I buy that.
Welcome to Derry, which is what I say when I got the shits. And after eating some froyo.
Is that some id?
Yeah, so Skarsgård in an interview recently said that to his knowledge, he's not involved in the series, but it is supposed to be coming to Max in 2024, so that's still moving forward. Let's see what else. Okay, I already got that. James Wan and Peter Safran have partnered. We are going to be getting a Conjuring television show that is, as far as we know, going to be continuing the story of the movies, meaning it's probably going to have Ed and Lorraine. I don't know if it's going to be Vera and Patrick, or if it's going to be younger versions of them, or what. But
I mean, if they're going to dig into some more of like the stories that maybe aren't prepared for a feature length thing, it's more of kind of like the adventures of Ed and Lorraine. As much as I don't,
that's what they call it.
As much as I like,
they should call it The New Adventures of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
as much as I disagree with a lot of the things that Ed and Lorraine Warren did in their lifetimes, like that could be a cool idea if we're talking about cinematic Conjuring universe versions of Ed and Lorraine.
Who's the other person? Peter
Safran.
Who's that?
He's the guy alongside James Gunn who's running DC and is like an exec at Warner Brothers now. I just hope that they call the show Hack Frauds. I feel like that would be the most accurate. We mentioned Gremlins.
Gremlin.
It was really weird. We just last night, Tone and I were talking about like whatever happened to that Secrets of the Mogwai Gremlin show that we were supposed to get, and today we got a trailer for it and a release date of May 23rd of this year.
Oh shit!
Shit. According to the Wikipedia article, this show already got renewed for a second season back in 2021. I don't know if things have changed since the.
No,
I know.
No, makes sense. The show hasn't been out for 2 whole years.
Newsflash: time is a flat circle, and nothing makes any sense about anything we talk about in these Chop Talk segments. Then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the official. Little teaser announcement of the Harry Potter television show. So Max will have a faithful adaptation of the iconic books, 1 book per season. Do you guys want to see the groundbreaking new logo for the Harry Potter franchise?
It looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
But it says Max in front of it.
Yeah, everybody's just like, oh, so you're going
Is it Maximum Harry Potter?
Because they're theme parks and their other things are all tied into the cinematic version of Harry Potter, and the trailer uses the John Williams theme. So what is the point of making this if literally the only difference is going to be the actors?
They want to talk about spew, apparently. Like, what the fuck?
And then some people were commenting that it's not going to work as a 10, because they said it's going to take 10 years to do all of the seasons and faithfully adapt all the books. And people were commenting saying, well, with the increased budget for CG and the longer production schedules, that you're probably going to get a new season of this every 2 years. And people aren't like kids and young, like people aren't going to get to grow up with these characters like they did with the actual Harry Potter movies. A lot of people, it's going to be so spread out that, and then when you spread it out like that, you always run the risk of something happening and you have to cut it at fucking
what?
Just ignore it. And
smart play. The whole sentence just got me.
And then on top, and then other people were saying, because J.K. Rowling has been confirmed to be an executive producer, which I mean, no surprise, it's Harry Potter, it's her shit. Some people are saying that this is partially like her way of trying to get the franchise back because most of the actors have gone off and like disowned any involvement with her, and like Radcliffe went and did that whole sit down panel with trans kids and everything, and they're saying like, oh well, she's just like, okay, I'll just recast all of you and just do it again, and then that way I can have it all in my good graces.
She had, I mean, at that time, like, pun intended, she captured the magic. I don't think you're gonna be able to do it again.
Well, and
not
also
in the same way.
Also on top of that, like I think a huge number of people were probably even more affected or influenced by the Harry Potter movies than the books. And
but even the books were a big deal because I don't remember anyone ever giving a shit about like book releases. But when those books came out, people like
dude, the midnight releases for those books.
People lost
I'm honestly, yeah. I mean, I know, like I was there at those, but what I'm saying is that like
I fought Gilderoy Lockhart at the Barnes and Noble.
That part of what made the movie so successful was like this big momentum, even before the movies. Now people are starting to lose a lot of momentum for them, and they're like, "Can we get a little bit of money?"
Yeah, and it's like, who is this for? Because the people who love Harry Potter are just going to go rewatch the perfectly good, well-cast Harry Potter movies that we already have, or they'll go back and read the books if they're diehard fans. And if they don't do any of that because they don't like J.K. Rowling, they're not going to be tuning into this. If they felt burned by Fantastic Beasts, they're not going to have any hype for more Harry Potter that's in the exact same style. If you were going to do this, again, I understand they can't remodel Hogwarts because they have theme parks that are based off of how it looks in the movies. Everything's going to look exactly the fucking same. I would have been way more interested in this if it had come out with like some completely new logo and new music and was doing kind of what the Rings of Power did, where it's like, yeah, we're spiritually in the same kind of vibe as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, but it's all new shit beyond like just a general kind of vibe that's based off the Tolkien. Yeah. That's cool, general vibe.
Or a different story.
Or just, do something original.
Yeah.
Call it a Max original.
Mm-hmm. They probably still are.
Instead of the Max doing the same shit.
Well, yeah, that's all the news. It was a big chop talk. I was expecting this to be a really light week for news, and then literally all of this shit about like Max. I just hate calling it that, too. Max.
I'm going to call you HBO.
I saw
Damn it.
somebody's comment because it's Max, the one to watch, and somebody was like, "That's what a teacher tells a substitute like before they go on vacation." Max, the one to watch.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's what I got for Chop Talk.
Right on. Thank you for sharing.
Trivia.
And yeah, we're going to play some trivia right now. John?
That Christmas house of wax, the fog, piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
Before we dive into Trivial Pursuit, we had a bonus question from last week that I just basically nailed, right?
Yeah, this smarty pants over here ruined it for all y'all.
Before you even finished the question.
Yeah, so my question was, there is a connection between Matt Reeves and the writer of the 1968 Planet of the Apes film. Who is the aforementioned writer, and what is their connection? Tone, you fucking nailed it. Rod Serling co-wrote 1968's Planet of the Apes, and Matt Reeves was working on a Twilight Zone movie before he switched over to Planet of the Apes. So there's that. Super exciting. This one actually is probably not going to be very difficult for you either, but I thought it was interesting. So your question for this week is, the code name for War for the Planet of the Apes during production was The Hidden Fortress, a reference to the 1958 Akira Kurosawa film, which was also the main influence for what 70s film?
The Star Wars?
It was indeed the Star Wars. I mean, tune in next week for your answer. No, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel. I'm probably going to end this segment with the trivia, just because I tend to, like, all the interesting trivia goes into my notes for the actual discussion, and then I'm like, oh, what the fuck can I ask now? Or we can just go back to bringing in random trivia.
Songs?
Ooh, yeah. You ready? Are the pipes a calling? Oh, Johnny boy.
I need a Caesar. I need a Caesar for the end of the war.
So, who's got the crown right now? I think it was you, right? Or no, was it me?
Oh, it's you.
Oh, shit.
You got it.
Okay.
Are we ready to get started?
Let's get it going.
Great. We're going to read a category, then read questions to each other in a circle, with me to John, John to Anthony, and Anthony back to me, until we crown a winner or winner.
I also gorilla glued this crown to my head, so good luck prying it off.
John, hit us with that first category.
Monster.
Your question is, the plot of what film is set in motion when the entire population of an English village falls unconscious?
Oh, shit, dog.
Is that they all falls unconscious, and it's we've watched it here,
We have watched it here. I can confirm.
and
Doesn't narrow it down much.
we've made content around it. Not only the episode, but also a funny skit.
The audience is shouting it at the screen.
They are blonde children.
It's Sleepless in Seattle.
It's
How does that make any fucking sense? It's
gotta-
an English village.
You got a butt in the oven.
but Doc.
Yeah, see, remember every beat of the skit, but can't remember what the name of the movie
the
is.
globe
What
spinning
was the
around.
name of the video?
Is it Village of the Damned?
Yes!
Dude, I'm so proud of you. Jesus Christ.
That is correct, John. Ooh, sorry, it was The Fall.
The fuck me, right? All right, Anthony, what is the name of the group of child protagonists, or what is the group, the name of the group that the child protagonists give themselves in It from 2017?
Well, I'm going to do my best to pretend that made any fucking sense and say The Losers Club.
Obviously, it made enough sense for you to understand, because you got the answer right.
Yeah, but I'm more of a lover from The Lovers
The Lovers Club? That's a completely different thing.
Don't they write that, though? Later?
They do. They write it on his cast.
Yep, welcome to Derry. Tone, what is the relationship between Amelia and Samuel in Babadook from 2014?
Dope.
Mother and child.
Yeah, that is correct. It says here mother son,
Yeah.
and I was gonna say that's your favorite Pornhub search category, right?
No.
No, absolutely not, Your Honor.
I don't use that website. So we're all tied?
Yes.
Great. Cool. We're moving on to...
Gore / disturbing.
Listen, John, in The Loved Ones from 2009, who is Brent Mitchell's girlfriend? Is it Lola Stone, Holly, Mia Valentine, or Carla?
I wish I had Brett Mitchell's girl.
I'm going to go with option B.
Holly?
Yes.
That is correct.
You know what?
Put it there, partner.
No one believed in you, John, and you proved them all wrong.
And for a movie I haven't seen where I guessed an answer, just based on the fact that one of them's
H, and we're doing H in roulette.
Oh shit! It was actually because the third option, the last name was Valentine. I was like, that's too on the nose.
She might be a character in the movie, though.
Possibly. Anthony, as of 2018, The Thing from 1982, Ting, was one of how many film collaborations between Kurt Russell and John Carpenter?
How many total?
Total.
Oh, brother. Big Trouble.
Where art thou?
The Thing. Elvis. That
Elvis?
didn't he do
Elvis
that?
movie?
They did an Elvis movie, I think. I was about to ask you if you could think of any more, but it's my question.
I can. If that helps.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what some of those other ones
It's actually a pretty decent question.
might be. He wasn't in The Fog.
He wasn't one of those Fog Down founders.
Oh, Escape from New York, Escape from L.A.
This is your question.
I'm pretty sure Carpenter did both.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to say 5, just because I can't think of any more.
5 is the correct answer for all of the things you previously
High
stated.
five.
Elvis, Escape from New York, The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, and Escape from L.A.
I did not know that Carpenter did LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does L.A. every
Carpenter
time he's
does
in there.
L.A. I watched a really interesting little interview video. I think he was talking to Ryan Turek in the video, and he was talking about how he stopped going to all those horror director get-togethers and stuff because all the horror directors just became super fucking pretentious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was like, yeah, Eli Roth and his fucking Hollywood hair can have those meetings. He was like, I'm going to stay home and play Xbox.
Just another reason I love John Carpenter.
Yeah, he's dope. And smokes a lot of it, too. Tone. The Final Destination from 2009 is what number film in the Final Destination series?
Okay. There's Final Destination 2, Final Destination 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is because there's... I think it's the fourth one.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, because I think Final Destination 5 is called Final Destination 5.
Yeah, it's the classic bit of we're going to call this one the final whatever and then do more sequels after. So you were correct. It is the fourth one.
Yeah.
And then 5 came out and was just, Final Destination.
Good job.
5.
Because it came out around the same time, I think, as the fourth Fast and Furious, because it was Fast and Furious, and then it was the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted them to call it like Final 5.
They should have just taken, how they've done Fast this.
That's what I'm saying. That's
and,
what I want to call it, Final 5.
Furious whatever. They should just take the part from that. The 11. The 11th one.
Cool. So we are
All
still
tied.
tied. Wow. And we're moving into
Psychological.
John. This is that stupid question I was laughing at earlier. Gerald's Game from 2017 was released on what streaming service?
Be the Netflix.
Oh, actually, as of
Ooh,
May.
it's just Max.
Yeah, as of May, they're just going by flicks.
Yeah. That's correct, yeah.
I'm taking that answer, yes.
You earned it.
Anthony, which character murders Marion Crane in the shower scene in Psycho? It's giving me 4 options. I'm not giving you those options.
It's Norman Bates / dressed up in the guise of Norma Bates.
That's basically what's written on the card. Norman Bates, although he does so impersonating his mother, Norma Bates. The answers that it gave you listed for options were Norman, Norma, Sam Loomis, and Milton Arbogast.
Okay. Yeah, I guess for somebody born before 1950, whatever, when that movie came out, would have a hard time with that. Tone. Who is the heroine in the novels by Paul Sheldon in Misery from 1990? And you do get multiple choice. A. Misery Wilkes. B. Misery Chastain. C. Misery Sheldon. Or D. Misery Sindel.
Oh, in the books. Okay.
Das Books.
Yeah, who is the heroine in the novels by Paul Sheldon?
Okay. It's not Wilkes because that's Annie. What are the other ones? Chastain?
Chastain, Sheldon, and Sindel.
I'll say Chastain.
Didn't even have to look, but yes, it is indeed Misery Chastain. The way I always remember that
Jessica?
is like Jessica, who is in It Chapter 2. So a little Stephen King connection there.
Oh, okay.
Stephen King connection.
We got a three-way, huh?
We did say that we were experimenting today.
And we're
I'm a
moving
little
in.
bi-furious.
What are we moving into, Jabes?
Paranormal.
What is the name of the leader of the Revenants in The Fog?
Asking me fog questions. General Fogtown founder.
Ooh, it is Blake.
I'm getting a lot of fog questions these days.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it. I don't like it. No like movie, no like question.
And I think we missed every single one of them.
Pretty much.
Well,
I
will
missed.
tell you that your next two are softballs.
I'm going to make my own fog/mist little horror movie. I'm going to call it Low Clouds.
I'm going to call one Steam.
Ground Clouds. Yeah.
Anthony, for the easiest question I think I've ever heard in my entire life, what is the surname of the married demonologists in The Conjuring from 2013 and The Conjuring 2 from 2016?
And Conjuring 3. From
The Devil Made Me Donuts.
20...
And from maybe a couple of the Annabelle movies. They are hack frauds. Ed and Lorraine, last name Warren.
I didn't need Warren. Hack frauds is good enough, but Warren is the answer.
First name hack, last name fraud. Tone. In what area of the house does, shout out to Podcast on Elm Street, does protagonist Ellison Oswalt find the horrifying Super 8 home movies in Sinister? In what area of the house does Ellison Oswalt find the Super 8 movies in Sinister?
Ooh.
You got this, baby.
The attic?
It is indeed the attic.
The attic.
That's where the spooky shit always happens.
Because I got
You
got
got three and we're at fours?
Yeah, I got fogged.
Yeah, but you got this one right here, buddy, as we move into...
There's a killer category.
All right. And another crazy coincidence. To what Bill Murray film is the plot of Happy Death Day from 2007? Similar. 17.
Groundhog Day.
That is correct. From 1993, the characters even reference the film when discussing the situation of the protagonist.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, lamp shading. That's my favorite poet. Shel Sevenstein.
Anthony, Nancy Thompson survives in A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984 to appear in what sequel in the series?
Well, she's in multiple. Doesn't want me to list all of them? Or...
I'm going to say after the first one, the next one.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
That is the correct answer.
And then...
Did she actually ever play Nancy in A New Nightmare? Or
yeah,
she just...
no, she's not playing Nancy, so that's probably, yeah. So they weren't asking about Heather Langenkamp. They were asking about Nancy. There you go. Made it make sense. I think the cinematographer for Dream Warriors just passed away. Tone. What actress portrayed Edwina Lionheart, daughter of Edward Lionheart, in Theater of Blood from 1973?
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
I feel like the international question. Are you mixed up?
I am not. You got one more difficult question after this.
Fuck, man, that's so good. What actress played?
Actrice.
Edwina Lionheart, daughter of Edward Lionheart, in A Theater of Blood from 1973.
Say a 70s actress.
I can't even think of one.
He's just thinking about that Bush comment you made.
The 70s.
Just picture him.
just Bush everywhere.
Get out of here, George.
Holly Hunter.
Great guess. It is Diana Rigg.
Game feels fucking rigged. You know what I mean?
No shot.
Yeah. All right. So, John, what do you got? 4?
Mm-hmm.
And I got 4.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony's got 5.
Yep.
And we're moving into
International.
Great. John, in Suspiria, in the fucking... No, this is the easiest fucking question.
Suspiria.
What type of dancer is protagonist Susie Banyan?
That'd be
The tiny kind.
Ballot.
That is mostly correct. Yes. Mostly. Good job, John.
5's
You
not
finish
bad.
out with 5.
None of us are doing
Particularly bad.
poorly this week.
Except for that I almost didn't get Village of the Damned. Anthony, in The Wailing from 2016, what is the profession of the protagonist?
If I recall correctly, isn't he a cop? He's a police officer?
He's indeed a police officer for the Clean Sweep.
Oh, you guys didn't expect a return of the cleaning lady, did you?
I wonder if people are going to tune in and hear you guys say protagonist all the time. Like, these guys are fucking idiots. That's not how you pronounce it.
It's
not
protagonist.
knowing.
We're very aware that
Yeah,
it's
but if
protagonist.
they haven't tuned in for the last fucking 5 years.
But to be fair, that's also not our original joke. That is from Red Letter Media. That's from the... Yeah, it's from... you didn't even know that. Just fucked your mind. I mean, sorry, freaked. In the old Plinkett Star Wars reviews, he would say, the protagonist. And it's just how I've always said that word since then. So I snuck it in, or we snuck it in, or it somehow got snucked.
Schnickty, schnickty, schnock.
But yes, if they haven't seen either of those channels, ours are Red Letter Media. Very confused. Tone, in Oni Baba from 1964, what does the older woman require the assistance of the younger woman to remove?
Asbestos.
Great guess, but the answer is a mask.
All right.
I don't know anything about Oni Baba. So.
Well, balls, guys. Good job, Anthony. Congratulations.
Well, I'm happy that since I did indeed Gorilla Glue this crown to my head,
that I don't have to rip it off.
I don't have to worry about ripping it off for another week. But yeah, we all did fucking great
Yeah.
in that round.
Yeah, I wanted it more, though.
Yeah.
Felt so good once you get that snowball in.
Once you get that snowballing, you know.
You know what I mean?
I don't like this.
Eventually, you just
thank
got up.
You.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for trivia. We're going to take a little break, and then we will get started with our main discussion, talking about War for the Planet of the Grapes.
War 44, 44, 44, the Planet of the Apes.
That was a good joke of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Right on, brother.
Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more. Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more.
Hey, you want to see something really scary?
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We're going to dive into Planet of the April, right? Was that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And we're talking about War for the Planet of the Apes, the, I guess, conclusion to the Caesar trilogy.
Tentatively,
Yeah.
apparently.
Hey!
Uh.
Again, directed by Matt Reeves, and again starring Andy Serkis.
A little bit different from the previous one, though. This one is not written by Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. I do that every single time.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. You've only been saying it for 30 years.
Yeah, it's who wrote the previous two. It is now co-written by Matt Reeves and Mark Baumbach. So Reeves had even more creative control over how this one turned out, and I think it's even better for it.
Do ya? So if you haven't seen this movie, we're gonna be diving into spoilers. I think all of us initially will say that we do recommend this movie.
100%.
So if that is enough for you, then go check it out if you haven't. And if you have, then we're going to dive into some of those spoilers. So it's been, I think, 5 more years
since you looked at me.
since the events of the last movie.
I believe so, yeah.
Something like that. And so Caesar and his group are in hiding. And the military that was hinted at in Dawn is now searching for them. And they find them. And then Caesar tries to, in turn, find the human camp, and it all kind of goes downhill from there, pretty much. Then there's a big battles.
Yeah, so even though this movie is like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I still think that it really moves at a clip. I don't feel like there are, honestly, really any particularly slow parts of the movie. It, from the jump, pretty much. And the last one did this too, but it's very fucked up how this movie opens. You get a very... immediately you see that it's wartime because you have the little meeting between Caesar and the humans, and you find out that they have some apes who have like turned, and they were Koba's followers, and they're now working with the humans. And you have this whole little conversation about like some of the humans saying, "Oh, Caesar, like we didn't know if you were still alive," and he's saying, all these Koba followers are afraid of what I'll do to them if I find them. And you have a little like tense little back and forth there, and then pretty much right after that you reunite with Caesar's family just in time for Woody Harrelson and co to show up and fucking murder them all. It's very brutal.
Yeah.
I remembered that at least one of his family members died. I did not remember that his son and his wife are pretty much immediately killed. Sad for Judy Greer, who got absolutely nothing to do in both of these movies. But like I said last week, I think she was just a big fan of Planet of the Apes and wanted to be in the movies regardless. But yeah, and that sets Caesar off on a revenge mission, really, and he gets to kind of step into Koba's shoes, where in this movie, and I think that's part of why, one, he's haunted by what happened with Koba and what he had to do with Koba, but also I think he realizes as he's going through this movie that he is kind of turning into Koba, because Koba all along had the terrible experience with humans, and that's why he was the way that he was. And Caesar now has gotten to that kind of breaking point of like, okay, I've had enough of this, because even in the beginning he says, I didn't start this war, all I'm trying to do is protect the apes. And then as soon as they kill his family, he's like, nope, this is a personal mission for me to go find this colonel and kill him.
Right, but I would say what the difference is between Caesar in this instance and Koba and the rest of it is that Koba wants all of the apes to back him up. Caesar is like, no, this is, like you said, this is my mission. I'm going to go do this alone because it's what I want to do. You guys go be safe. I think Koba wants a war.
Yeah.
Caesar just wants revenge and doesn't involve the rest of his group.
Yeah, that's
I think
a good point.
that he's blinded to the realities, though, in thinking that they would fall for kind of like this, sending like a rogues group to like distract them in order to allow everybody to escape. And obviously he falls into this trap essentially by saying that we're going to send the group out and then we're going to go find this human camp. And during the process, everyone is captured because of his like issues with acting for his like own gain at that point, because they don't have his leadership with them.
Well, and he has that moment when he gets imprisoned in the human camp and he sees that his young, baby son is there and all of those apes
Cornelius.
Yeah, and he has that moment where he says, what have I done? Because he realizes that he has, fucked them over and gotten them into this situation, and now has to try to get them out of it.
There's a few things that I really, really like about what this movie does, and I'll just touch on them briefly. I love that we get to see the, I guess, de-evolution of humans. Mm-hmm. Like them starting to lose.
I totally forgot about this element of the movie with which is so fucking cool, with the virus mutating to then make the people start becoming mute first and then progressively more feral as it progresses.
So I love that in connection to the old movies. And then I like that along with that, this simian flu is still spreading to apes.
Mm-hmm.
But
so that answers the question that we had in previous films.
I really like that. I had forgotten a lot of this movie, so it was very surprising for me. And then the other thing I wanted to briefly touch on is that this movie does something that we don't see a lot of, and I'm surprised that they got away with it, honestly, that this whole movie is about Caesar hunting this big bad, and Caesar doesn't actually get his revenge in the way that he wants it, where he gets, we don't get a battle between the Colonel and Caesar. Like, they never actually fight.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Caesar still wins over it, but not anything that he did intentionally. It's actually a human that kills the Colonel.
Well, and it's once again Caesar.
So I love that, because you don't see that in movies like this. Like, there's any Marvel movie, what's at the end? Like a big CGI
Well,
battle.
and I'm sure that there were people who walked out of this and were bummed out that you didn't get Caesar beating the shit out of Woody Harrelson and killing him.
I think we wanted it.
I think it's more nuanced for that, though. I think that it really leans into the fact that it doesn't have to be solved by ape on human violence, right?
I applaud the filmmakers for doing it, yeah, and I think that it shows a lot about Caesar's character. Like, yeah, I could destroy this human now, but yeah, I've learned. I've grown within this time that I've spent at this camp, and now I don't feel like I need to.
Well, and the things that are happening to him are worse than anything that I could do.
Yeah.
He is becoming the one thing that he feared to become.
And I feel like Caesar is maybe outside of Maurice, Caesar is like the most human of any character in this movie, including the humans.
Well, and we continue to see him evolve throughout all of these movies, which is so, I mean, if you're already watching, you've probably already seen this, but I think that as opposed to something like John Wick, where I said I actually think it's a detriment to watch them all back to back, I think as close as possible that you can watch all three of these movies together makes the most rewarding experience, because there were just a lot of really cool developments with the Caesar character and the other apes, and seeing kind of like I understood the trajectory of these three movies and the story they were trying to tell a lot better than when I was just seeing them in theaters every couple years when they were coming out. Because in the first one, Caesar has, a couple words, and it's mostly sign language. Then in the second one, he speaks, but he's still got kind of a broken dialect, and he's still kind of getting the hang of it. In this one, he's just talking pretty much, like a normal person. And a lot of the other apes are also talking. But something that I know we complained about a lot, I don't know if complaint is the right word, but that we were confused about was that our expectation going into this movie was that because it was called War for the Planet of the Apes, that we were going to see like the final big violent confrontation between humans and apes. Mm-hmm. But I think in rewatching these, the war part of this title is not the most important part. It's the war for part, where it's really about the apes and Caesar. It's their war to protect basically their existence on the planet, and they end up winning out in the end, because just like in every other one of these movies in this reboot franchise, it's the humans that are their own worst enemy. They created the virus, which has caused all of these problems, and then by the time you get to this one, they are now going to destroy themselves because of the virus that they created that's evolving, and on top of that, because they can't stop fighting with each other, and so it's the humans that end up destroying themselves in the end. And it, I think, is a harbinger for what we're going to see in Kingdom, because in that, it's, from what I've read so far, it is about the next generation having like infighting of ideologies between what Caesar really meant for the apes to do going on into the future. And so I think that's continuing this idea of like the apes can and will eventually end up at this point that the humans are at, which is like the logical end of this kind of species, which is they're just going to fight until they all destroy themselves.
Which I think is probably true.
And by the time of Planet of the Apes, the original, I think there is that kind of like infighting and conflict and politics and stuff going on, where it's like unless they, Caesar has tried his best, but it seems inevitable for both parties to go down this path. The apes just are going to have some more time on the planet ruling it before they eventually go down the same route. It's very tragic. Everything about this movie is so emotional, and it's a
pretty sad fucking movie.
Yeah.
I was like welling up with tears through a lot of it.
When that first, I mean, not the first, but when that gorilla dies after they're with Nova and she like puts the flower in his ear.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God.
And
And
then
I was like, it's so weird to me, and I think a testament to the filmmaking and the acting and the graphics that this thing doesn't exist. Like that whole, it's a person way underneath, but that what we're looking at on screen, that's just not real. Like, and I'm feeling so much emotion for really like nothing. That's not a thing, and it's crazy to me that can happen, that you can evoke that feeling.
In this one, especially with Caesar, I was the most, like, it was the furthest from my mind that this was not a real creature, because just the amount of emotion. I talked about how, like, I'm pretty sure toward the end when he is holding the gun to the colonel's head and he's just like snarling and there's tears coming down his face. I'm unless I was just tripping, it looked to me like you could see the blood rushing to his face and it was getting like redder as he got angrier, and just those little details. And just now in this, they're not just in the rain, but they're in the snow, and so there's like all snow on the fur, and everything is just so immaculately detailed. It's insane. And yeah, I mean, I told you that shot when Maurice first meets Nova and just like leans into focus. That's, like I said, just Weta swinging their big dick saying,
it's like, how is this not a fucking ape?
Yeah. You would have to argue with people, I think, who hadn't seen the behind the scenes stuff. You probably have to convince some people after seeing this that they didn't use any real apes. And I think, especially, it works especially well with Maurice and the one, like any of the apes that look a bit less human. I think it works really well with. And then the new ape, one of the new ape characters, the big important ape character in this, Bad Ape, Steve Zahn's character, because he's mostly bald and has more of like a human sort of flesh tone. There were scenes where I was like, there's no way they didn't use a real, like, puppet model or something. Like when he's poking out of the little hole in the ground, and looking around at the other prisoner apes, and he's like trying to tell them, what the plan is. I was like, that looks so fucking real. It was just, again, like each of these movies has just increasingly blown my mind with how amazing the effects are. But yeah, I think this was, I told you, Tone, that for some reason I had it in my head, and I think it is just because this is the one that I've seen the least out of the three. I had it in my head that this was the worst of the three, or like or my least favorite of the three. And
I think that originally, like you touched on earlier, we were expecting a war movie, and it's not that to that degree. It's a very different type of war movie.
Well, and also I think I've grown in terms of my taste for war-related, big, crazy explosion type stuff, and I actually prefer a war movie that is focused more on the tragedy and the psychology of the characters going through it. And that's what this is all about. You do get your big crazy explosions, which look fantastic, but
it's more about the apes being interned in this camp and being forced to work, and how, like, early on in the process, before even his passing, that Caesar becomes this symbol that like the apes rally around, right? And even if he's not making decisions for the entire group, like with his entire quest to revenge, he does still always have their best interests at heart. And I think that like I said, it speaks a lot to how well developed that character is, and the reasons why ape kind look up to Caesar, right? I think that it really works super well in this film. The writing is super sharp, even with having some little moments of levity. Like it helps to just kind of like that little poke up for air and then back into the sad. But it does the sad really well, and like the interactions between Woody Harrelson's character as the Colonel and Caesar are lights out. Like great dialogue, great conversations. I love how, like, slowly but surely you can't tell really if the Colonel is kind of like losing his grip on reality, or if Caesar is getting smarter by the moment. And it's just really crazy.
Yeah, I love how the Colonel is constantly just like, wow, you are very impressive. Like, when he makes the realization, like, oh, you're not having us build a wall. You're having us build a wall because the other military that's coming here is not on your side, and they want to fight you. There's so much just fantastic setup and payoff in this. You have the whole thing where the doll that Nova has is what ends up passing the virus. And so when Woody Harrelson's character ends up picking up the doll toward the end,
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and then you see him with the virus, and then that's a payoff of what he said about his son and how he talked about how he killed his own son because he had the virus.
Here's one thing I wanted to ask you guys regarding this exactly. We meet this father-daughter. I guess we don't know for sure if it's father-daughter, but I think presumably it's father-daughter.
It could be like a Last of Us situation, but I think it's supposed to be father and daughter, yeah.
To me, and I don't know if this is intentional or if you guys picked up on this, I was thinking this guy is part of this Alpha Omega faction or whatever, knows that they're killing people who are now gone mute, so he took his daughter out and is trying to protect her. So although he still has the stamps, he's away from them to save this little girl.
That's what I got from her, like, walking up toward the compound when she sees it. Like, she wants to go back into it. Like, she recognizes it. In my head, that meant, like, oh, she's from this place. Like, maybe... I thought maybe we were going to get a twist that I didn't remember, that she was actually, like, the Colonel's daughter or granddaughter or something. But it doesn't go that far. But, yeah, I kind of got that same idea that... that he had escaped with his daughter when he found out that the Colonel was killing everybody who had this virus.
What I think this movie also, and I guess especially tied in with Dawn, is we get to see the evolution of the apes, right? But then also the de-evolution of the humans. So in Rise, it's very much like human apes, like, you know, James Franco's character is like, there's still humanity in us. There's humanity in them, like we can be together. In Dawn, we have Jason Clarke's character and his family that are like, no, apes, we can still work this out. And then the rest of the people are against the apes. And then in this, even though Caesar helps a few of them out and lets them live, still showing his humanity, they're like, no, still fuck you. Like that guy that he lets go with the crossbow never like redeems himself for that.
There's also a great setup and payoff there where the Colonel asks Caesar, like, oh, I hope you don't regret sparing this guy. He's a great shot with his crossbow. And then he's the dude that shoots Caesar in the end with his crossbow.
Yeah, it kind of like is Caesar's hubris in the end, kind of biting him in the ass.
Right, but we get to see that he still is holding on to that part of himself, and that humans have completely lost their shit, at least this group of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at, like, in Dawn, you know, there's a lot of these scenes of, like, the apes, like, you know, like the chanting and like the screaming and, you know, all the typical ape stuff and everything, and like they seem so much more calm and like collected by comparison to how the humans seem in this film. Like when they have that entire group where the entire like faction comes in, like while Woody Harrelson is shaving his head in that one scene, and they're just like all screaming and yelling and shit. They're the ones who seem feral and animalistic by comparison.
And that's accepted, like, feralness versus not speaking.
Yeah.
Even though that's basically, they're not speaking when they're doing that. They're just, like, chortling or whatever.
Yeah, and Harrelson at one point talks about, you know, oh, like, you guys, the reason the apes are so dangerous is because, like, now that you're as smart and potentially smarter than us, you're also stronger, more agile. And it creates this really interesting question of, like, what really makes a human being? Because is it just the intelligence, you know, or is it something to do with like a soul or a conscience? Because the apes also have that. It's not like they're just super smart and animalistic. They become more and more civilized, and
they're capable of loving, having a society. I mean, and that's stuff that they're capable of now without the heightened intelligence. Like apes are capable of having a society, having a hierarchy, you know, and all of those things are still possible.
But I think that, you know, it can't be overstated how important I think the influence of Caesar ends up being for the future of this society. Because when assuming, like all of the creators seem to, assuming that this is leading up to basically what would be a remake of 1968's Planet of the Apes, they are basically just like a copy of human society, but with apes. They have the same kind of like courtrooms and government and, you know, all the same stuff. And if the apes had no human involvement and just evolved their own society, who knows what that would have become. But something that stuck out to me in this was that Caesar, when he's talking to the Colonel, or when he's talking to, you know, at multiple points, he says, you know, he doesn't say, oh, they killed my mate. You know, he's like, they killed my wife and they killed my son. And I'm like, those are, you know, very human terms for those relationships. And so to me, it seems like just that small amount of like humanity's influence on Caesar that is passed to the apes has a huge impact on where they end up going.
Their trajectory,
with their trajectory and their history, which was just something like, interesting that stood out to me was, oh yeah, like he still has a lot of that humanity that he's passing on to the rest of, and then even obviously down to the English language,
I think,
which unlocks the potential to possibly read books, which means that they can take cues from humanity and kind of pick up where humanity leaves off, right?
I think they push it even further in this because they don't really want to fight. They'll fight if they have to for survival, but even the ending of this movie isn't them going crazy. It's them sneaking out of this camp so that they can just live.
Yeah.
And try to get out of the way of the humans killing other humans.
And the one that sticks around and tries to fight, Caesar, by blowing up this gas tank, because of that, ends up getting shot, which ultimately leads to his death. So it's like, you try to be like that, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
They did, the humans did, and now he is.
Yeah, because I think in the first one, we have him grow up in human society, then remove himself from human society, then human society in the second one kind of forces their way back into his life, and that's when he tries to have some sort of compromise and kind of have a peace with humans. And then this movie is all about just showing the multitude of reasons why that's never going to be possible, and so that in the end it really is just how can we remove ourselves from all of the shit that's going on. And then it's with the avalanche that happens at the end, and then obviously the mutating virus. This one seems like after this, there aren't going to be very many humans left at all on the planet.
If not just the ones who are like feral animals.
They need to, if they're going to do anything with the original Planet of the Apes, and more time needs to pass, though, because there are still going to be apes from this generation that remember that humans could talk and that they had a civilization.
Yeah, and in Planet of the Apes isn't the idea that they've all been fooled into thinking that humans were never like this superior race.
I think there'll be a pretty significant time skip even to the one that's coming out next year.
Yeah, I think the next one is supposed to be 12 years after this one. And then, I'm assuming that the next one's not going to lead directly into, I would assume they'll probably want to milk at least another 3 movies out of this now that they've taken a break. But
I wanted to say, too, another benefit, I think, from watching these back-to-back, like we did, is that, especially in Dawn, Caesar's like, no guns, doesn't want to use them, pretty against him, and then as soon as his family dies, one of the first things he does is picks up a gun. And so for me, I was like, oh, shit, I don't really remember this movie, so I was like, that's not good. Shit is going down. Caesar is fucking pissed, dude. Because I don't want anything to do with it, and then just blasts a dude out of nowhere. I was like, whoa, shit. And you really feel that after having just watched Dawn.
Yeah, the tension in this movie, and not to mention how just absolutely gorgeous everything looks. Not just the effects, but Matt Reeves is, we know this, he is an excellent filmmaker. And
dude, some of the blocking where it was person out of focus and then person in the background in focus, sharing a screen. I was like, just gorgeous. This guy knows how to make a movie.
And the whole setup of that opening thing with all of the soldiers with the green lasers coming out of the dark when Caesar wakes up and looks through the waterfall and you just see the descending green lasers coming through, you're like, oh shit, it's so scary.
I remember seeing that in theaters and being ooh, this is
and then
intense.
The Colonel's big intro shot where he turns and he's got that crazy look on his face,
and the makeup, he's got the war makeup.
Even the opening of them walking through the fucking jungle, the way that they laid the music over that, and then it just goes silent. I was like, holy fuck!
Big shouts to definitely one of my absolute favorite composers at this point, Michael Giacchino. He recently did Werewolf by Night, but he's composed some of my favorite scores, for the Star Trek reboot, for the Batman. Obviously he's done pretty much everything that Matt Reeves has done. I think outside of Cloverfield.
He also really leans heavy into percussion as
you get that percussive rendition of the 20th Century Fox logo at the beginning. The music is incredible in this. I think it was really good in the last one, and in this one, I think it really just nails all of that emotion and just the really pulse pounding tension. Yeah, because when Caesar gets angry in this, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Dude.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scenes where there's the threat of him being shot if he snaps, and he's just using so much self-control. And I love that scene when you don't know what he's going to do, and then the one ape in the background, I think it might be Lake, the wife of his deceased son, maybe, picks up the
rock
boulder and gets them all to start moving, and it registers with the Colonel just how important and meaningful Caesar is to all of these other apes, and that's why then there's the really harrowing him getting put on a cross. They really push the Messiah. Really, it's all hugely biblically influenced, and
yeah, I feel like there was some Moses stuff.
Yeah, and so because they had a longer amount of time in pre-production for this movie, something that Reeves and Baumbach did is they just were given a theater to watch as many movies as they wanted to in by the studio, and they just sat down and watched like 100 movies for inspiration. Everything from the Star Wars movies to some of their biggest influences were, coincidentally, Bridge on the River Kwai, which is about prisoners of war having to build a bridge over the River Kwai. The Great Escape. They took huge influence from the Ten Commandments, which stars Charlton Heston. It was what he did right before Planet of the Apes.
And that's him as is that him as Moses?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, let my people go.
I felt that. I forget what part it was, but I was like, that feels very Moses in that regard. I can't remember the exact scene.
Yeah, so you have a lot of biblical stuff, which makes sense if he's supposed to go on to be kind of like a mythical figure in ape culture. And then also...
Kubo is like his Judas.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved the flashbacks of Kubo.
They're really creepy and like they feel like horror.
Yeah. I've always really liked. Like, I don't know. It's super unsettling.
Also, like I always assume that so much of that comes from the VFX animators, but I posted a little thing on Instagram of a side-by-side that I think Vanity Fair or somebody did of the motion capture or the performance capture next to the stuff from Dawn. Oh. And so much of what they're doing with their faces is the actors. Because they spend so much time learning like how to be primates that... like just the way they contort their faces and the lips and all that stuff, like all that mouth stuff is Toby Kebbell doing all of that. And people were saying
good for him, it's great.
And people were saying to Matt Reeves like how do you feel about people saying that Andy Serkis is a great performance capture artist or whatever, and you rarely hear people say that he's a great actor? And Reeves is like, well, all performance capture is a way to capture a performance. So you need a good performance for it to be a good performance capture. Yeah.
That's like saying, was it Doug Jones isn't good because he's always in makeup or whatever. You know what I mean?
I think it's just because people don't really understand what goes into that. But especially in this one, if you had any doubts about how much of this was Andy Serkis, he's talking throughout the entire thing. He is doing all of the screams and all of that anger and contortion in his face is all him. Yeah. They're barely adding anything. Even the tears that he cries when he's considering whether he should shoot the Colonel, those are Serkis's real tears because the VFX artists like loved exactly when the tears fell and everything, so they just took them off of Andy Serkis's face and pasted them back over.
Well, I think it might have been after this, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a push where like, can we get motion capture added to the Oscars as like performances, or maybe it was for the Globes, but there was a while I think it was specifically because of his performance in this where people were like, this needs to be a category or these people need to be considered for these awards. Yeah. Because this performance is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, and there's so many elements to it that it feels unfair to just to just give it one award that's like best visual effects. Yeah. It's like, there's a lot of visual effects in this and the performance capture is its own thing.
And there's still an actor who has to perform at that point, right? And that performance has value. I mean, without that performance, this movie is nothing. I mean, there's a lot of great components that go into this, but the actors that played these apes do such a fantastic job of conveying their emotions and of making you believe that they're real, right? Yeah. Without having that shit, you're not making a movie anymore, or at least not a movie that's this impactful.
And like we were saying, if you're able to make the audience empathize with animals, then obviously you're doing something right with these performances.
Yeah, and the other actors in the movie, the human actors, I'm sure that the level of their performances is much higher because they are a lot of the time interacting with the actual actors playing the apes on set.
Not a tennis ball.
Yeah, Reeves talks a lot about how there are moments in all of the in both of these movies that he did where the actor would just do something that they never would have been able to replicate, like keyframe animating it, and doing it that way. Steve Zahn, a lot of the stuff that Steve Zahn did as Bad Ape in this, they were like, that was just stuff that he did with his body and improvised, and we just rolled it, included it into the character and developed the character based on his performance. And
the only thing I didn't like that he did was the binoculars bit. I was like, that felt...
It was pretty funny, though. It was like, oh, no,
it
why
felt
make
so
it so
out of
small?
place,
So
dude.
my realization during this was that I'm pretty sure that beyond... So the origin of his character was that a fan had asked Andy Serkis at a Dawn Q&A if there were other apes in the world that had been affected with the ALZ, and it got Reeves to go, okay, we should have a character that opens the world for future sequels.
Loved it, yeah.
But outside of that, I think because this movie is so fucking depressing and grim, that's why he is there to provide the comedic moments.
Most of it worked for me. That was really the only part where I was like,
there's that, and then also when the avalanche is coming and he's like, no, and just standing in front of it, and the other ape has to basically come with a cane and pull him off stage, that sort of thing. But overall, he worked. I remember being kind of put off by him the first time I saw the movie, but I liked him a lot more, and also just another like super tragic character. And Zahn's vocal performance is so heartbreaking, and his whole thing about just thinking that his name is Bad Ape because he's been called that so many times. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, there's just a multitude of ways to beat it into your head that the humans are the bad guys, and that you should be happy at the end when they all get killed.
And I am.
Mm-hmm. Something that I also really appreciated about this is that Reeves, I'm sure intentionally, didn't go too far into trying to make the human characters their own thing. Because my complaint in the previous couple movies was the apes are always way more interesting than the human characters, because there's always got to be your Jason Clarke or your James Franco that's like the real hero of the movie because they're the human and they're the main, and there's got to be some nuance to whether they're good or bad. In this, it's just like, no, the Colonel is fucked and he's evil, and there's really no question about that. But he doesn't seem entirely one-dimensional just because of Harrison's performance and also the whole backstory with his son and all that, where like it adds value. There is some nuance there to his character, but pretty much he is just, I am here to fuck shit up, and it's me versus Caesar, and almost the entire movie is the apes. It's very little focus on
chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Yeah, I love his little bit where he goes and where he's naming all of the like military leaders that have faced off against each other throughout history, and then he's just like, "You're not much of a reader, are you?" Because he's like saying all that stuff and then realizing, this ape probably has no fucking clue any of these historical figures I'm talking about.
He doesn't know pop culture like the Gremlins do.
Yeah. But we mentioned Charlton Heston earlier. Interesting little tidbit. His voice actually is used in the movie when Maurice says Nova to Nova for the first time. Mm-hmm. They actually mixed in Charlton Heston saying Nova from the original movie into Maurice's voice. And I was really curious because Maurice talks a little bit more in this, because I think in the last one he just says run.
Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah. Most of his dialogue is just
signing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was curious because Maurice is a male character being played by a female in real life. And I feel like you can hear her voice, especially like toward the end when Maurice is like crying about Caesar passing away. I felt like I could hear a woman crying in there, and I was just curious because I was like, okay, now that you're having Maurice talk, and it's supposed to be a male character, how are you going to really pull that off? And I think to me it sounded like they just pitched down the actress a little bit, because there's always some mixing and vocal stuff going on with how the apes speak, but that's all the whole Nova thing. I like how they
that's cool. I did not
did that, and then also on
these
top
movies
of that,
have done a really good job tying in stuff from the original franchise.
Oh yeah, and there's if you've seen the entire franchise, apparently there are just a million more references to like battle and conquest and all that, and I haven't seen any but the OG Tim Burton in these. But yeah, tons of references. But when we first meet Bad Ape, and he's talking about how he doesn't want to go to the military installation or whatever.
The human zoo.
The human zoo, yeah. He keeps saying, no go, no go. Well, no va in Spanish is no go.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's that. Kennedy's got the little Nova thing, he's telling her not to play with it. And then Nova in Latin also means new. So when he's telling when Maurice is telling Nova that's what she is, he's also saying like, you are something new, like you are whatever this next phase of human or whatever you guys become is going to be. So just little intricate details like that I appreciate.
I think what sold me this time around on Steve Zahn's character is that conversation between Bad Ape and Caesar around the fire, like the night that they first meet him. When he's like, why do you want to go there? He's like, they killed my son or whatever. And then Zahn's like, I had a family too, I'll take you. I was like, holy shit, like that. I was like, I did not expect that from Steve Zahn of all people.
Yeah.
And then especially after just watching him in White
Lotus,
yeah. I was like, oh, that's the fucking ball guy. But yeah, I was like, that's it. That sold it for me for that character. You can get away with your little silly jokes here and there because that was beautiful.
Tell your jokes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think without the expectation of this being some big explosive war between apes and humans, this played a lot better for me. And then also understanding that it was more about the tragedy of war and the tragedy of what Caesar's going through made me more open to the Steve Zahn character being a bit of comedic relief that we probably needed, so that this wouldn't be so fucking depressing that people are like slitting their wrists in the theater. And
then at the end, your leader dies.
Dude, I wept at the end of the movie. Just having watched all three of these back to back, I was like, holy! And just that whole thing with just the small decision. It's one of those things where I'm like, that's what makes you a genius filmmaker, is that they originally were going to have Maurice give that whole speech about, we'll make sure everybody remembers what you did for Apes and they remember Caesar. That it was all going to be in sign language. And Reeves, like last minute, said, oh, I think it would actually be more powerful if Maurice says it out loud and actually speaks it to Caesar. And yeah, it just that, oh man, it just got me in the feels really hardcore. And just the way that Caesar handles his death, where he's just like, yeah, no, I did what I intended to do. I got the apes to a safe place. I've done all I can to kind of impart my lessons about what apes are supposed to be about, and I'm leaving it up to you guys. And people have said that may also be a reference to the original Planet of the Apes, because now it can be assumed that Maurice will probably become leader of this tribe. And when we see the apes in the Planet of the Apes future, the orangutans are like the highest level of their government or whatever. So I
love Maurice. I'm glad that he was with Caesar in the end.
Yeah.
That felt so appropriate with just because they are the ones that met in the pen and first communicated together.
Their connection is real, right?
Yeah, and Maurice has always been the most, outside of Caesar, the most human of the apes in terms of just, wanting to make that connection with Nova and having, that sympathy, and then just always kind of being the chilled out, wise advisor to Caesar. So it just felt very appropriate that they were the ones that were together at the end. I was trying in my head to kind of track where the fuck they had traveled in these movies. As far as I can tell, well, I looked it up, and the place they're at the end is right near Mount St. Helens, so they're in Washington.
Oh.
So that means that they moved from the Muir Woods in San Francisco up into Washington over the Sierra Nevada mountains, I guess, at some point, in some capacity throughout these three movies. Because I was just really interested, because I was like, ooh, I like to kind of know where geographically they were traveling and everything. But even that setup at the end with the desert lake is... ties right into the ship crashing into the desert lake in the original Planet of the Apes.
I mean, there's a scene, I think it's toward the beginning at one point when they're on their horses, where it's like almost the exact same scene from the original, like walking through everything. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Little nods like that are really cool. Eventually, they're going to have to make their way to New York, though, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
The Planet of the Apes takes Manhattan. Oh, and then another big influence that's literally just scrawled on the wall is Apocalypse Now.
Yes.
The Colonel is very much like Marlon Brando, Kurtz in that. And the whole thing, APEocalypse Now, which as soon as I saw it, I went, cool, there's our title for our YouTube video for this week. But yeah, I told you yesterday, I think that this is absolutely my favorite of the three. And I think is the best just in terms of the emotional weight of it, the tension, the action. I mean, some of the explosions and stuff, like when Caesar runs out of the smoke and he's got the fucking like belt of grenades on him. And just knowing like what's going on in that gorilla's head of like, oh, he's gonna get the grenade launcher, and then you see Caesar drop that one grenade, and then you're like, no, but boom, he's gonna get. Yeah, it's just very exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, emotionally, effects wise, set piece wise, trimming down the human stuff and really focusing on the apes, giving Caesar's arc a really beautiful conclusion. I think it's the best of the three, but really, if you can watch them as close together as possible,
You'll love them all.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent trilogy, and I'm really glad we revisited it because it's going to live a bit even more fondly in my mind now, going into whatever Kingdom brings. And hell, I'll probably just rewatch them all before that comes out too.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts you want to add?
Like I said, it's a beautiful film. I wasn't as warm on it when it came out in theaters,
I don't
but
think any
it was.
of us were.
But I think I'd only seen each of the other ones the one time, and so they were so far removed from each other that I didn't remember a lot of like the little beats and a lot of the things that are carried over from those previous films that work so well in this one. And it came out at a time where a lot of other movies were coming out that had, pretty solid CG. So you really don't add a lot of thought to that, especially if you don't know walking in that there's no real primates. Like it's aside from humans, like you like if you know that there are no animals in this film, it changes like your perception of like what they were able to accomplish visually with this, right?
Yeah, and this really stood out as because it was a summer blockbuster and it's so dark and depressing. That was what a lot of reviewers said, is like, this is fantastic but very strange for a summer blockbuster, that it's so dour. But
They
I think
knew
it's
they were gonna
fantastic.
make some fucking money.
Yeah.
also, before we get off the subject, I meant to mention, I was going to text you guys this, there's a shot in those tunnels where there's like gunfire going off around the tunnel and it's being illuminated by the gunfire. It's exactly the same as that shot in the Batman that he does, where Batman's like walking through the tunnel and there's the gunfire going all over the place. I was like, oh, he just liked that shot a lot when he used it in war and just carried it over.
Why not?
And that's another cool thing, is like watching these, and having now watched the Batman, I think, 3 times.
Shit, dude, you got that kind of time?
Well, I watched it I watched it once in theaters, once because I wanted to revisit it, and then I watched it a third time because Matt Reeves did a commentary for it, and I was very interested in hearing what he had to say about his vision for Batman. But yeah, I think it's an awesome movie. And what the fuck are we going to talk about next?
Now, how many weeks we got left in April?
I don't think much. Let me double check.
Let's take a look at the calendar.
You're so fast.
So we
just one.
Just one?
So do we want to cover the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes? Or do we want to go back to one of the older ones? Or do we want to do a few episodes of the television series?
Ooh.
Didn't we talk about the original one?
I had it as a shameful miss. So we've covered it in a redemption episode at some point. I wouldn't mind revisiting it now after watching these 3.
I think I like that idea better. I feel like if where this trilogy of films is taking us is to the beginning, why not start there?
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
All right, 2 against 1. I would love to watch Burton, because even this time I was like, I feel like I can picture Michael Clark Duncan and hear Michael Clark Duncan, because he's...
We could also just do both.
No. Who's got that kind of time?
Oh, shit.
All right, original.
Charlton
Maybe with a
Heston.
little sprinkle bonus of the Tim Burton one.
Maybe with
if
a
we have
little
the time to
sprinkle
rewatch
bonus.
it. Or just
That's
to
what we're gonna do
give our
next week.
thoughts. But yeah, 1968's Planet of the Apes. Go find it. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. It's also a dope movie, but very different from these.
Very
So,
different.
I'm interested to see what carries over, though. Because if they're planning on making it connect, there's got to be some stuff there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've dropped hints, obviously, mostly with the first one. And then a lot of just the names in the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and like all the trivia for all 3 of these movies is like, hey, remember that space shuttle is still lost up in space somewhere. So once all this shit finishes up here and all the humans devolve and all the apes evolve into big civilizations,
Some regular humans
it's
will
time
come
for those
down.
regular humans to come back.
Yeah.
It's time for a deep fake Charlton Heston to come back.
Pass.
Big pass.
All right, cool. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this. And if you haven't already, please check out our bonus episode where we are talking about Gremlins this week.
Gremlins 2,
And
the new batch.
Oh, yes, that is correct. Gremlins 2, the new batch. And then next week, we're talking about Hell House LLC 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun if you haven't seen that already. But other than that, we will cover the original Planet of the Apes. So thanks again. I've been Tone.
I've been John.
And I have been Nova. And the internet, darling Anthony. And I'm just a big fucking fan of monkeys.
They're not monkeys.
Apes.
There we go. Together.
Strong.
See you next week.
Keep it creepy.